Hello, seniors! It's been a while, and I hope you are all in good health for today's another discussion. So let us go on the journey of learning on the field of Philippine politics and governance. Brace yourselves and have a happy learning ahead. Nature of elections and political parties in the Philippines. This lesson focuses suffrage and political parties as political practices in state. Political parties and elections play a vital role in political analysis in developed and developing countries in analyzing democratization and democratic political regimes. Before we proceed with our lesson, let us first understand the content standard of this topic. Demonstrate an understanding of elections and political and civil society and social movements. For the performance standard, the students must analyze the interactions between state and society. Lastly, for the most essential learning competency, analyze the nature of elections and political parties in the Philippines. So I believe you are now ready with our discussion. To begin with our discussion, let us first understand what is suffrage. Suffrage is the right and obligation to vote of qualified citizens in the election of certain national and local officers of the government and in the decision of public questions submitted to the people. Despite what it might sound like, suffrage doesn't have anything to do with suffering. In fact, suffrage is a term that refers to a person's ability to participate in society by being able to vote at elections. Suffrage may be exercised by all citizens of the Philippines, not otherwise disqualified by law, who are at least 18 years of age and who shall have resided in the Philippines for at least 1 year and in the place wherein they propose to vote for at least 6 months immediately preceding the election. Let us talk about the nature of suffrage. The first one is that a mere privilege. Suffrage is not a natural right of the citizens, but merely a privilege to be given or withheld by the law-making power, subject to constitutional limitations. Second one, it is a political right. Suffrage enables every citizen to participate in the process of government to assure that it can truly be said to derive its powers from the consent of the governed. The principle is that of one man, one vote. Scope of suffrage. The first one is election. Election means by which people choose their officials, followed by plebiscite. Plebiscite is the vote of the people expressing their choice for or against a proposed law submitted to them. The third one is referendum. Referendum is the submission of a law passed by the legislative body to the people for their ratification or rejection. The scope of suffrage also includes initiative. Initiative is a method in which people directly propose and enact laws. And lastly, recall. Recall is a method by which an elected local official may be removed from office during his tenure. Election. Elections are the process by which means voters in a country select the officials who will exercise the powers of the government for a period fixed by law. They are the principal feature of a modern democracy. So let us go deeper in election. Elections are devices for filling a governmental office through choices made by the electorate, a designated body of qualified people. While elections are by themselves not a sufficient condition for the existence of political representation, they are a necessary condition because the representatives process is intrinsically linked to elections and voting. Election is integral to democratic governance. Through its mechanism, politicians are held accountable for their actions, compelled to introduce policies that are reflective of and responsive to public opinion. Basic characteristics of election. Through elections, the citizens exercise their right of suffrage or the right to vote. In essence, these are the basic characteristics of elections. The first one is they are political exercises. They select officials who shall serve for a definite term or specific periods. They often provide the means for the expression of the popular will. And lastly, the decision of the voters in fair, free, and honest elections cannot be questioned. Types of election. It includes general election, which are held for the purpose of electing national and local officials simultaneously. National elections. National elections are conducted to elect the President, Vice President, and members of Congress. Another type of election is local election. Local elections are held for the purpose of selecting officials in the region, provinces, cities, and municipalities. And lastly, special election. Special elections are held on a date different from that of a regular election. Those who meet the qualifications enshrined in the Constitution can vote. As a review, here are the requirements for voters. First one, must be a registered voter in the permanent list of voters. Followed by a citizen, male or female of the Philippines. Not otherwise disqualified by law. At least 18 years of age on the day of election. And resided in the Philippines for 1 year and in the city or municipality wherein he or she proposes to vote for at least 6 months immediately preceding the election. Persons disqualified to vote. The responsibility of determining who may be disqualified by law and therefore may be precluded from exercising the right of suffrage is left by the Constitution to Congress. As to who are disqualified to vote, the law enumerates them as follows. The first one are those who has been sentenced to imprisonment of not less than 1 year. The second one are those who has been found guilty of committing a crime involving disloyalty to the state, such as rebellion and sedition. And the last one are those who are found to be in not normal mental condition. Those who has been sentenced to imprisonment of not less than 1 year are any person who has been sentenced by final judgment to suffer imprisonment for not less than 1 year, such disability not having been removed by plenary pardon or granted amnesty. But such person shall automatically reacquire the right to vote upon expiration of 5 years after service of sentence. For those who has been found guilty of committing a crime involving disloyalty to the state, any person who has been adjudged by final judgment by competent court or tribunal of having committed any crime involving disloyalty to the state such as rebellion, sedition, violation of the anti-subversion and firearms laws, or any crime against national security, unless restored to his full civil and political rights in accordance with law. Such person shall likewise automatically regain his right to vote upon expiration of 5 years after service of sentence. and those who are found to be in not normal mental condition should be insane or incompetent persons as declared by competent authority. Schedule of elections. The regular election for President, Vice President, Senators, members of the House of Representatives, and local officials shall be held on the second Monday of May. Presidential elections are held every 6 years. Senate and local elections are held every 3 years. COMELEC, the election body. Section 2 of Article 9 of the Constitution gives the COMELEC the broad power to enforce and administer all laws and regulations relative to the conduct of an election, plebiscite, initiative, referendum, and recall. This provision has given the COMELEC all the necessary and incidental powers of the body to achieve the objective of holding free, orderly, honest, peaceful, and credible elections. The powers and functions of the COMELEC are conferred upon it by the 1987 Constitution and the Omnibus Election Code. They are classified into administrative, quasi-legislative, and quasi-judicial. For the administrative function, it enforcement and administration of election laws, while for the quasi-legislative power, it is the issuance of rules and regulations to implement the election laws and to exercise such legislative functions as may expressly be delegated to it by Congress. And for the quasi-judicial powers, it embraces the power to resolve controversies arising from the enforcement of election laws and to be the sole judge of all pre-proclamation controversy and of all contests relating to the elections, returns, and qualifications. Decisions, final orders, or rulings of the Commission on Election Contests involving elective municipal and barangay offices shall be final, executory, and not appealable. Rules governing elections in the Philippines. The supervision of the elections in the Philippines is under the charge of the Commission on Elections, or commonly known as COMELEC. In the process of supervising the conduct of elections, the COMELEC is guided by the rules governing elections as started in the provisions of Republic Act No. 7166. Elections on campaign period. Campaign period for the President, Vice President, and Senators is 90 days before the election and 45 days before the day of election for members of the House of Representatives. For the filing of Certificate of Candidacy, the certificate of an individual running for national elections is required to be filed at the main office of the COMELEC not later than the day prior to the beginning to the campaign period. Precincts and polling places. Every barangay is required to have at least one election precinct, with each precinct having not more than 300 votes. And for the registrations of voters, it is held on the 5th Saturday prior to the day of election for those who are to reach 18 years of age or before the day of election, and for those qualifies to cast their vote but not included in the list of voters. Common poster area. The COMELEC is empowered to designate common poster areas in the barangay where candidates can post their election propaganda announcing their candidacy. For the official watchers, every political party and candidate is entitled to one watcher in every polling place and canvassing center. For the Board of Election Inspectors, it is constituted by a chairman to one watcher in every polling place and a canvassing center. And for the Board of Canvassers, in every province, city, and municipality, a Board of Canvassers is constituted and composed of provincial election supervisor. Let us talk all about political parties. A political party is defined as an organized and presumably durable association, either of individuals or of distinguishable groups of individuals, which endeavors to place its members in governmental offices for the purpose of bringing about the adoption of favored political policies or programs. Of all the characteristics of parties, the one which distinguishes them from all other associations evincing a substantial interest in public affairs is their effort to secure the election or the appointment of their own personnel to the public positions through which the policies of government are prescribed for implementation. Characteristics of a political party. Its objective to control the exercise of governmental powers by placing its own members in the public offices through which the policies of government are determined. Another one, its intention to use governmental powers for purposes which meet with the general approval of its leaders and the rank and file of its membership. Types of electoral system. It includes one-party system, the bi- or two-party system, dominant party system, as well as multi-party system. So let us look for them one by one. One-party system. Only one party dominates and there is no political competition between parties. Single-party system has the right to form the government, usually based on the existing constitution. For the two-party system, it is a party system where two major political parties dominate politics within a government. One of the two parties typically holds a majority in the legislature and is usually referred to as the majority party, while other is the minority party. The dominant party system. It is a party system where there is a category of political organizations that have successively won election and whose future defeat cannot be envisaged or is unlikely for the foreseeable future. And lastly, the multi-party system. A party system in which multiple political parties have the capacity to gain control of government offices separately or in coalition. There are several political parties that stand for the election in the country. The Nacionalista Party, the Liberal Party, the Lakas CMD, the PDP Laban, the Nationalist People's Coalition, the Laban ng Demokratikong Pilipino, the Akbayan, and the Philippine Democratic Socialist Party are the parties with largest membership in Congress. Political parties are required to register with the COMELEC with a verified petition with attachments including a constitution, bylaws, platform, and such other information as may be required by the COMELEC. They are required to have chapters in most regions, and within each region, most provinces down to towns and barangays. Nature of party list system in the Philippines. The party list system in the Philippines is a mechanism of proportional representation in the election of the representatives to the House of Representatives from national, regional, and sectoral parties or organizations or coalitions thereof registered with the COMELEC. The seats allocated to party list groups constitute to 20% of the total number of the members of the House of Representatives including the seats under the party list system. Qualified groups. There are three different groups may participate in the party list system. It includes national party organization or coalition, regional party, and sectoral party. For the ways to participate in the party list system, a party must register and manifest its desire to participate with the COMELEC not later than 90 days before the election. If the party is already registered, it only needs to confirm at the COMELEC of its intention to participate in the party list system within the period. For the nomination of representatives, the party shall nominate its representative to the House of Representatives. The nominee should be a natural-born citizen of the Philippines, a registered voter, a resident of the Philippines for at least 1 year immediately preceding the day of the election, able to read and write, a bona fide member of the party or organization which he seeks to represent for at least 90 days preceding the day of the election. Do you have any questions? If you have one, you may comment down below or you may send your questions to your teachers for clarifications. Guess it's time to say goodbye for now, my dear learners. See you next time.